Welcome to Business Prowess with Rafael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Rafael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
Good morning, Dr. Andrea. Happy Friday. How are you today?
Hunky and Dory. Hold on. Wait, I'm on mute. No, I'm not.
No,
I was muted.
You're
all right.
Hunky
Thank
Dory.
you. I was on another screen. So I am so excited to see you always.
Absolutely. We already had some fun even before the show because we were talking to our 2 guests who are exceptional. And what a show. I can tell you it's going to be a vibrant show. So let's not wait any longer and bring them in. Anita and Mario, welcome to Business Prowess. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah. So our topic today, and this is such a vast topic. I love it. It's the ripple effect of communication and entrepreneurship. Oof. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll start. Thank you so much for having me on here. One of the things that has been a journey for me. So my background was corporate and I rose up the ranks. I've got an MBA and I kind of did that corporate thing. And rising into entrepreneurship was a complete fluke and accident. So, but my part that I want to really go out to give credit to the people who impacted my journey was the ripple effect of little tiny steps through this entire process of that transition from employee to entrepreneur. It was way more challenging than I thought it was going to be. It was harder, but it's that ripple stepping stone from the interactions that I was making from random people with kindness. And what I want to say about that is I think there's this notion in entrepreneurship or people who are really successful that they keep all their secrets to themselves and they don't want to share what they've done to be successful. And when you talk to people, they're like, everything's private. And actually, I think it's completely the opposite. I have yet to ever meet an entrepreneur or someone who's successful who actually doesn't want to share what they did or what their issue was or what their world of hard knocks knocked them down and picked them back up. And I think the ripple effect of this community of entrepreneurship is really unique because we all communicate in a different way and people hear things differently. And I think that's one of the greatest things about entrepreneurship that gets a bad rap, quite honestly.
Oh my goodness. You definitely spoke to me in so many different ways. And one of the ones is that think of an ant colony. The way they build, it's an infrastructure, it's a community, it's everything. We can learn from animals, we can learn from insects. It's so incredible when we can build one little step at a time, one little ant at a time, right? And they are a force to be reckoned with. Have you ever seen an anthill? Oof.
Now you make me want to sing, just what makes that little old ant. Of course, I don't know that young people know that song. I'm gonna have to do a test. I have to see if my children know it. They're in their 20s. I bet they
There
don't.
you go.
Yeah. Because throughout the years, as there were songs and things that we did, like Who Moved My Cheese and stuff like that. There's been thought leaders that have used, animals and mice and grasshoppers and, the Little Red Hen story. And I don't know if those have been translated into our younger generations to be able to model over that idea of, how other people and how other animals and insects can build communities and colonies and have worker bees and all of that to change the world.
Well, we are talking about the ripple effect of communication. One of my clients is out here in Long Island, and they're a huge distributor of liquor. And you would think, wow, they're doing phenomenal. People are partying, people are doing all these things. And she said, actually, we're losing a lot. I said, tell me more. So she turns around and she goes, the younger generation is not drinking as much. I said, really? I said, that's interesting. I said, what do you think that attests to? And she said, cannabis. They're smoking and getting high differently. And so that, for the liquor industry, has become a big thing that they have to think about. How do they regain clients? And when one thing steps in and another one thinks that they can keep doing the same thing in business that they've been doing all along, let's think about Blockbuster. Let's think about all these different things that have been out because someone else said, we have a better solution for you. So I think the ripple effect of communication is how we conduct our business as an entrepreneur, as a business person ourselves. What are your thoughts on that? Mario, what are you thinking?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mario. And I see the topic communication not just a field, but I feel like it's infinite ocean. And when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur who have a positive influence that also is growing exponentially with time, the bedrock for the ability to do that is to understand that every single relationships and every single person in our life is actually a customer service in our lives. We offer them how we live our lives, basically. And I actually realized this with a great deal of gratitude that I started working with my mother, who was a great entrepreneur, who never actually went to even a high school. And I started helping her at age 9 years old. And it showed me how the dynamics of human interaction and communication can really easily be built like this or destroyed like that, just with the words that we use. Ripple effect, exactly. And I was able to put 2 and 2 together when I started researching communication itself about 20 years ago. And once I realized how powerful mindful communication is for our own personal growth and how we impact other people as well, I realized that communication is it for me. And I basically, every other field, every other topic, I always approach it from the communication point of view. So the way we communicate with ourselves, if we see that every single person in our life is like customer in our lives, that means we are in the customer service business 24/7. And when we have customers, we always present our best. We're looking for ways to help. We care about what their feedback might be. And these are very important concepts to keep in mind as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think one of the concerns that I see happening a little bit more and more is, we're so connected now with social media. The internet was literally almost nothing a decade and a bit ago. And all of a sudden now we are probably more interconnected than we've ever been. And I think we also run the risk in communication that there are so many people that are out there professing themselves to be experts on certain things without ever having that experience or having done the things that they're an expert on. And so vetting, how do you know so following channels like this, where we absolutely know that, Sifu Rafael has vetted the people that are on your show, and you've done things that make sure that the right people are on your show with the expertise because you vetted it. But there's so much more. There's so many people out there that I think are just saying whatever they want to say, and people aren't necessarily following. And I think that it's amazing that people have the confidence in social media to go out and do it. And that's awesome. But I think we also run the risk that we've got this ripple effect of people saying things that maybe they shouldn't say. And more importantly, we've got the algorithm that reinforces a lot of those things that are not necessarily positive. So making sure we sift through the garbage and take where there's positivity and where there's good things to help our lives.
I love the fact that you recognize that to put the show together is not an easy task, because I do have to have one-on-one conversations with everyone before they come on any of my shows. Being that Dr. Andrea, I think I have to change our intro because now I have 7 shows. So for me, it's important.
Maybe you could just say has a plethora. That way, tomorrow it could be 8.
That's a good word. I like that word, a plethora.
Yeah.
But when I talk to somebody, the question I ask is, tell me about you, right? And then I have a lot of people reaching out to me and say, I just got started. I said, congratulations. That's a great place to be. I said, but they want to be on the shows. And I said, let's talk in like 3 years. Make sure you're still in it, right? Because a lot of people get started and they don't keep going, including people who put posts on social media. They'll put a post here, put a post there. And then also, or maybe they'll put 30 posts up and people are like, wow, this is a person that we need to follow. And then they're gone. And so it's a matter of finding who you are and continually showing up with that in mind, so that people who are going to follow you, people who are going to trust in you, will continue to do so by the actions you do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take on that. Thank you, Anita, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to comment that I think that people have so much to share, and I do love this platform that we have, and that it's become so easy. I mean, I think YouTube was really one of the coolest inventions, really, in the sense of being able to showcase, something, and how easy it is now to even figure out how to repair something. You can just go watch a little YouTube video on it. And I think that the ability for people to be inspired that it is possible. And I think, to your point, showing up is probably the most important part of it, as opposed to doing it as a one-off and being that one-hit wonder, but rather, constantly showing up. When my kids, I have young adult children now, and, I used to always say to them, I'm just like, 80% of success is just showing up to your class, showing up for your friends, showing up for your family. Just keep showing up and you will have that success. I truly do believe that.
And that's the ripple effect of communication, how you show up. Listen, if I show up to a black tie affair in my swim trunks, we're going to have an issue. But if I show up to the beach in a tuxedo, there's going to be an issue. People are going to go, I'm not dressed enough. Or they're going to go, what is wrong with that guy? So showing up is probably the first aspect of communication, how you show up, body language, the ripple effect of your smile, which your smile is going to make somebody else smile, or somebody going to go, that person is so happy. Let me get to know them. Right? So it's the ripple effect of communication. It's that first instance. And we know a couple of years ago, it used to be 3 seconds to make an impression. Now it's a millisecond, isn't it?
Yeah, people's attention spans are ridiculous now. I think they're about 10. I don't even think the whole is 10 seconds. I mean, you really have to capture their attention within a moment. And whether that's even on our websites or whether that's in social media or that's in person, even at the grocery store, just even a smile is crazy. I feel like we don't necessarily say hi to enough people on the street even anymore.
Growing up, I'm going to just one second, if you don't mind, Mario, because growing up in New York, you don't say hi to anybody. So I took a vacation as a young man and I went to Pennsylvania, and I'm walking and I'm seeing the Amish and with their carriages and all this kind of stuff. And I really didn't encounter somebody on the sidewalk, but the minute I encountered them, they said hi to me. And I did one of these. I'm like, are they talking to me? So yes, we need to say hi to more people. And I realize that people could be nice. Not that New Yorkers are not nice, but we can all learn from a smile and a hello. Thank you. And Mario, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I just felt the urge to plug something in here, because something that I came across about 13 years ago. And you all might be familiar with the name Brene Brown. I'm sure some people might shake it. No? Brene Brown, her book, The Power of Vulnerability. Okay, good. One with me. Okay, yes. And she really talks a lot about showing up authentically, vulnerably, with who we really are, with our thoughts and intentions. And obviously, we need to learn how to do this in a mindful way and in a safe way. You can't always be vulnerable everywhere you go. Like, you can't be vulnerable at the car dealership, for example, because you'll get taken advantage of. So it's very important that when we bring up showing up, it's a very important virtue to take on wherever we go. In the meantime, it's really very crucial to be aware internally that are we showing up with a specific impression in mind, or in addition to that, we're also showing up with our true self, with how we listen, how we actively listen to other people, how we respond intentionally and not just being reactive, to actually take in the information and like savor it for a bit and maybe reflect on it by making a comment back. So what I'm trying to bring up here is understanding what it means to show up authentically and vulnerably. It's actually not that easy, yet it is extremely rewarding, because that's how we build long-term relationships.
Yeah, yes. I was actually coaching someone yesterday about how the first time I met this beautiful woman, she was just so in her light. And over the last few times that I've met her, she seems to have fallen into a bit of her shadow space. And I remember this moment of wanting to say that to her and going, should I actually call her out on it? And being very vulnerable, like, she'd have to accept it, but also it's hard to point that out, even if you are a coach, even if you are a mentor to someone, to point that out to someone. And then, but I ended up saying it to her in a very loving way. But what I was so proud of in this conversation was, Mary, to your point, was how vulnerable she was and accepted it. And she authentically took the comments and said, you know what? I don't know if anybody's ever been able to. She goes, I think I've known this. She goes, I've never been able to have it articulated that way. And I said, you just have such a bright light. She goes, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what my purpose and passion. I said, it's not really relevant, quite honestly. The only point is, don't live in your shadow. You have such a bright light. We all do. And, she's just in a relationship with someone who has a very bright light. And so that often can happen when you're surrounded by people who have bright lights. And I'm like, but one of my favorite, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but one of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou, who says, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle, right? It doesn't lose its light. So there's no reason for anyone to not be in their light and to be we don't need to sit in our shadow, but it takes a huge amount of vulnerability. You're right, Mario, to show up authentically and not, it's so easy to live in our shadow. It's so easy to just stay quiet in our comfort zone, as opposed to get out there and, say what we need to say. I completely agree, but it's a very hard thing. And I think most of us struggle with it at times.
I love that, the fact that you actually told your client this. And I want to just remind anybody who hires a coach. When you hire a coach, don't come with your own agenda. The reason you hired them, the reason you're paying them, is so that you can learn from them, from their actions that they've taken to help you elevate yourself. So you need to be coachable. One of the things that I tell my clients is, I'm going to be brutally honest with you, and I'm going to tell you things you probably never heard someone say to you because they're afraid to hurt your feelings. I said, I don't care if I hurt your feelings. I'm going to come in a loving way anyway, but my goal is to lift you higher than you've ever been lifted by anyone else. And if we can't do that together, then maybe you need a different coach who's just going to hold your hand and tell you how beautiful you are and how amazing you are. Because the reason we look for a coach is because we need guidance by somebody who's been there. Not somebody who's going to cuddle us, right?
Well, a little cuddle mine then is nice, but
Yeah.
cuddle.
Always.
A little bit, I
wanted to jump in because I've been quiet because I've been writing. I on the show, I'm writing comments that each one of you says, so that way we're engaging with other people who might not be able to listen, but they're at work, but they want to read what's going on. And I appreciate what you guys have been sharing because, there's different ways to view how, like when you mentioned about vulnerability, Mario, I appreciate people who are vulnerable and willing to be, but you're right, there's right places and right times. And I was speaking with a friend of mine last night, and he's a guru behind all the gurus. If there's anybody of any significance in thought leadership and authority in business, if you were to mention them, he has worked with them in some capacity. So we always he's just amazing. Anyhow, we were talking about that vulnerability and how that shows and how we have each other where we can be extremely raw and vulnerable. And then we have our people and friends who help lift us up and support us, but also won't hide us from our own bullshit. And Sifu is always very, very kind and telling me how wonderful I am. And at the same time, because he loves me, he would call me on it if there's something else that I needed to be called on. And he would do it respectfully and privately. And that's what's so amazing about having a friend like Sifu in your quarter. And then, of course, if you're, aren't friends with him already, having him as a coach first is a really great way to eventually be his friend. And, and those things are really wonderful. And I want my clients to be vulnerable with me. And I'm also vulnerable with them. One of the things I've learned is in business, we want to be the leader, especially when they're their coach. But if I'm having a challenge or a problem or a situation with what they have going on, I want them to be the first one to be able to talk it through, because I can go and talk to other people, but if I'm doing something for them, so like I do publicity and neuroscience, I want to talk with them about that. Why am I talking to others when I can have them be involved in the situation so we can find a solution together? So just some things to share. Thanks.
I love that, Dr. Andrea. And our relationship is it's not a one-way, right? It's a two-way, because she'll tell me, she'll call me out too. So the thing is, when you have somebody in your corner, they're not just the only ones telling you. You got to go back and forth, and you got to be in a situation where honesty, I think, is the most important thing in any relationship, in any communication. And that's where the ripple effect can come in. Dr. Andre, what you just did, you lifted me, not only me personally, but you lifted me to others who may be seeing, who said, wow, this guy Sifu, he's not so bad after all. So we need to understand that life is better when we lift others up. It's not always about us. It starts with us. Every morning, everything starts with me. But as my day goes on, I did my morning work on me so I can lift others, so I can be strong enough to put them on my shoulders so that they may be able to see what I saw initially, so they can see even further than I saw. And maybe they can tell me about it, and they'll tell me, hey, let's go over there. That looks like a really good place to be. So lift each other up.
So yesterday on my very long drive to an event, I was listening to Ed Milet, his podcast, and I really enjoy listening to him. And one of the things that he talked about was, tips that he does in the day. And the one that I started doing as of yesterday was he reaches out to 3 friends and lifts them up every day and just appreciates what he loves about them. And I thought, that's amazing, to be able to make someone feel just the way Dr. Andrea did right now. It seemed like it was so beautiful to see, but to do it. And so I did that this morning, and it felt great for me, but I really hope it felt great for the people that I did it for, to remind them that they are loved and appreciated and what I like about them and their energy. And it was just such a great little tip. It didn't take long to do. He says he does a little video message, so I'm going to get to that point where I can either do audio or video, but I started it, but I started small. I sent a little check message, but that's okay. We have to start somewhere, right? But I thought it was such a great hint. And, to see to your point, what a great way to lift up somebody else. You feed your own soul, I think, that way as well, by knowing that you made a difference in their lives, that maybe that's just exactly what they needed to hear that day.
So there's this guy, he sends me every Friday, we reach out to each other. Happy Friday. Every Friday without fail. Every Friday we're sending stuff to each other. And he and I met back in 2020. And since that day, there does not go a Friday that we don't text each other. Once in a blue, I'll text him on a Monday just to spice it up a little bit. But this guy's all over the world. He travels all over the world. And the fact that he takes a second, it really takes a second to reach out and say to me, happy Friday, coach. That is huge, right? And a lot of times he'll just say happy Friday. A lot of times he'll always say, hey, coach, how are you? Happy Friday. And those little things spice our lives up. They lift us up. I'm delighted. And so sometimes I'm like, who's going to reach out to who first? As soon as I think, boom, I send them a text, right? So now we have this thing going. It's like, we're always going to be doing this Friday thing. I'm sure 30 years from now, technology may be different, but our friendship will still be intact because of the little, and you talked about it earlier, the little things that we do to build up that communication, to develop that connection, to develop that entrepreneurial spirit inside of us. It's a daily thing that we need to do. Small little things.
You lift me up. You guys just make me think of songs all morning long here.
Could you tell that she loves to sing?
I do. And my husband hates that song, by the way. In fact, we have a little running joke. If he should die before me, I am singing that at his funeral. To be funny.
Oh my goodness.
I have the urge to make a comment about lifting other people up, because this is what I do in my practice. That's what I share in my consultations and coachings and workshops. This might be a little humorous at the beginning, so I ask for your patience. First off, I do not like to lift other people up because some people are actually really heavy. And The second reason why I don't do that, because if I lift them up and I leave, what happens? They come back down again. So what I'm trying to bring up here is I practice self-empowerment with my own inner voice. And when I do that, and wherever I show up, subconsciously, it allows other people to do that for themselves, to empower themselves, to uplift themselves, to find the positivity and the empowerment of harnessing and using their internal voice consciously. Basically, I show people how they need me less and less with time. That's what I do. One of the things I do, I should say. And I'll pause here and I'm open for comments.
I love the fact that you brought that up because it makes us think about if we do lift somebody up, we don't leave them there. We take them on a journey. So for me, and when you said they may be heavy, maybe they're burdened is what I thought, right? I didn't think of weight. I thought of maybe their burdens are too much. Maybe it's not just up to you to lift them up, but maybe you have to engage others to lift them up. And let's say they are heavy, right? You have ever seen the weddings where they put somebody on a chair, and if that person's heavy, it's going to have to be not 4 people, but 20 people.
Nice.
But still, it takes a village to raise a child. But guess what? That child grows up, and that child still needs the village. And we forget that part. So we still need to lift people up. And I love what you said, but we don't want to leave them lifted up because guess what? Anybody who lives in a penthouse alone is lonely. So we don't want that. And thank you for bringing that up. So it makes me think of if I lift somebody up, is to take them to maybe to a place that they need to be, but not leave them there by themselves. Because nobody wants to be alone. We're creatures of community, of a tribe. We need people.
I appreciate you mentioned that, Mario, because I'm a neuroscientist, and, so when we think about our words and what we do, yes, of course, I do lift people up. I love lifting people up. But you're right, with my practice and what I do with that is teach them to be able to lift
Oh, she's going to be so
themselves
powerful when
up,
she comes back.
resilient, whether I'm there or not. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that so much. However,
Dr. Andrea, you cut
I
out a
even
little bit in the
say that I lift
beginning.
people up. Oh, I have really
Yeah.
crappy internet here at this hotel. So I don't know what you missed or what you didn't miss, but I like to lift people up even when they meet me. So I do that with my name. So I say, "Oh, I'm Dr. Andrea." It's pronounced on. You turn me on like a light switch. And then Dree rhymes with tree because I love trees. And hopefully you feel better because you met me.
I love that. That's great.
And then if you didn't hear earlier, is that I love that your intention of what you're talking about, because I am a neuroscientist, and while I do love to lift other people up, my practice and my business is about helping them to be resilient, to lift themselves up, and then to be able to mitigate where they want to be. If they don't want to be up, then they've made the choice and they're taking a stand in the fact that they want to be down and that, or neutral, that's their choice. And so then they're looking at themselves instead of what's external to them in their world. So thank you for that, Mario. And I'm going to be more mindful of that because sometimes, even in my situations, I think sometimes because I'm so positive, and the new term now, have you guys been hearing toxic positivity? Oh, I'm so full of that. I am that. I own that because I don't want to hear you make a stand for your bullshit. I'm tired. No, you can argue with me all you want, but I'm not going to believe that your life has to suck because it sucked for a moment.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to do, I mean, Sifu, if you're okay, I'm going to do a shameless plug for my journal.
Go.
And the reason is because, it's totally on point what Mario said. So when I was growing up, I kept a diary. I was one of those girls who had like buckets of diaries. And then when I became an entrepreneur, again, as I said, a little accidentally, my mentor said journal. And I was like, I don't even understand what that means. I had a blank book, and I was like, the blank paper didn't tell me what to do. So I decided that I was going to create it because, to your point, Mario, I agree. Like, I could be inspired by other people. I can, but nobody can motivate me to do things. Nobody can force me to change things. Nobody can, make my negative thoughts positive. I have to do all of those things. So as much as I'm surrounded by community or accountability and great coaches, and I feel like I'm helpful to other people, you have to self-reflect. And so I created this guided journal. It's on Amazon under my name. You can look it up, but it's like, and one of the categories is, what were my negative thoughts for the day? And how can I convert them to be positive? And what were my reflections of the day? And what were my successes? And what am I grateful for? And I just created this guided journal because I felt after 365 days, if you can go back and see how much you've improved and how maybe it's actually by the time you get to 6 months or 7 months, you really have very few negative thoughts, or you have the one, whereas on your first few days, you have like 18 of them. And I do believe that it's individuals' jobs to stay lifted and change your mind. So I agree with you, Mario. I think we, as coaches, and we need to help people, but we can't keep them up in the air. And that's one of the reasons why I created this journal. It was everything I needed when I was growing up in my journey.
I really, really love the way you put your journal together. It reminds me of tick marks when you go to somebody's house and they have kids, and they have a tick mark with the name by the door and how they've grown. And the kids, they're like, I want to be like so-and-so. I want to be like so-and-so. Wait a minute. You're growing. I'm not growing. Well, let's go look at the door. Remember when you were this tall? Remember when you were that tall? Remember when you were in 3rd grade? Now you're in 8th grade. And the same thing we need to have is to have a retrospect of where we've been and where we are today. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we needed
Every
a pregnant
day.
pause.
We did. And now it gave birth to us speaking. Every day, our words impact. They impact us because maybe it's a thought. They impact the people around us. But how do our words impact or have that ripple effect that we can share with our communities, with the world? How does your words have a ripple effect, just like that stone in the pond does? Question for everybody.
I think I love toxic positivity, Dr. Andrea, because I think I feel like it's my job to wake up in the morning to be happy and positive and see the light in things. I really do. It's an internal thing. I don't know, but finding that and just shutting down when people are being negative, because I can spiral into that space. I think we all can. It's easy to spiral into that negative gossip and whatnot. But to be able to just stop and pause and figure out and say the right words and stop yourself. Because if you've probably said it out loud, you probably said it in your head a bunch of times before it even comes out. So I think the awareness and being cognizant is the first step in that communication.
I teach little kids to put on a black belt suit, a rubber black belt suit. So they start from the bottom, they zip themselves up, make sure they cover their whole head. They can still breathe and everything. But that suit, a black belt suit, does not allow any negativity to enter. So if somebody says you're ugly, that thing bounces off. I'm beautiful. If somebody says you're dumb, bounces off. I'm smart. So when I teach that to children, at first they look at me a little different, and then I role play with them. And so I'll tell kids, because it also helps with bullying. When somebody says, I don't like your sneakers, instead of saying, well, my sneakers are worth it. No. Say, well, you know what? I like your sneakers. So we throw it back. So because it bounced, right? But we bounce it back in a positive way. Well, you're ugly. Well, you're handsome, or you're beautiful. You're dumb. I think you're pretty smart. So when we can teach the youngsters of today, because to me, a youngster today, a 10-year-old, is my future. So I need to empower them to lift them up so that they can sustain the negativity that's being passed around nowadays. Something that when they're 18 years old, they will be so resilient, so be able to bounce things off, to wake up in a positivity. You know why I wake up every day like you, Anita? Every morning I wake up happy, thrilled, the essence of joy. I'm alive. If I'm not happy about that, man, what else do I have to live for? I'm alive. God gave me another day to be here, to make everything better than I did yesterday. So I wake up extremely positive. No alarms.
I have a thought. When you were talking, all of a sudden I had this image, and it's kind of based on what Anita was talking about before that. And it goes even deeper to what Mario was talking about teaching people to be resilient and lift themselves up. A ripple effect. We throw a stone in the water in order to cause a ripple. So there's a disruption that happens. Doesn't mean it's positive or negative. It's just motion or movement.
Yeah.
But with children, because you were talking about children, often we're so, I see a lot of culture where, gentle hands and be positive and, not saying no or stop, or getting their attention or a timeout. Like even all of those things are considered bad. And now I don't want anybody beating children. Okay. I'm not saying I'm an advocate for let's beat children. Okay. That is not what I'm saying. However, I do think a disruption and getting their attention is positive. Because if we don't throw a stone at a kid once in a while, we're not going to cause a ripple in their life. And that stone doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't mean we're throwing rocks at them, but just a little disruption, a little pebble, a little grain of rice poking them on the arm isn't going to hurt them, but might get their attention. So I do like that. I'm very much, my children are very resilient and very independent. And that's because they were given things to do and responsibilities and allowed to make choices as early as 1.5. And they were allowed to fail and make mistakes. And if milk was spilled, we were like, oh, well, here's a rag, clean it up. It's spilled. We said the milk spilled. We didn't say they spilled it, unless they went like this. Then they did.
One of the things I teach parents with their children, it's called 1, 2, 3 is Magic. And there's a book out there that's called 1, 2, 3 is Magic. That's where I got it from. It's not mine, but I have instilled it when I work with children. The reason there's 1, 2, 3 is magic is because the first time a kid makes a mistake, they may have not realized it, that they made a mistake. The second time, so we let them know, hey, you made a mistake. Second time is, you did it again? Third time, that's where you get the timeout. That's where you do the disruption. You stop the activity, you remove them from the activity, you take them somewhere else, and then however old they are, they have to sit and contemplate. There's no games, there's nothing. And here's the cool thing. You don't beat them over the head with saying, you did this. There's a consequence. You messed up, you go sit in silence, you come back like nothing happened. Unless it's a real severe thing where you have to have a conversation. But if it's all cool, we move on.
my son
1, 2,
when he
3.
was maybe like
It's
5,
magic.
and all of a sudden he was sitting in his little timeout spot. So I never liked the idea of them being facing the wall, but our staircase was in the middle of the house, so he would just have to sit on the second step. And all of a sudden I looked over because it got really quiet, and as a parent you're like, uh-oh. And he was sitting in his timeout spot. I'm like, why are you there? And he goes, I was thinking of doing something bad, so I thought I would sit myself out. And I laughed so hard going, oh my God, that's so great. I'm like, okay, well, I'm really glad that you did that, right? But I want to share, if I could, something that I used to do I do with my daughter, and the ripple effect. So to your point, Sifu, of this black suit, when my daughter was in grade 4, girls bully very differently than, boys. It's a very different environment to get bullied in a girl's world. And I was trying to really, like Dr. Andrea, to your point, I was trying to let them just solve this on their own. And so every day she's coming home really crying. And then one day I finally decided I should probably intervene a little bit, and we started talking about it. And I said, I just need you to be a duck. She's like, a duck? What's that? And I went, I want you to think about when we go to the pond and you see a duck. When the duck is swimming, its legs are flapping like crazy, right? Underneath the water. But on the top, they're really calm. But ducks love the water and they love the rain. And when the rain happens, they don't sink. The water just flows off the duck's back. And I said, that's how I want you to go to school and life. Things that come to you, you need to decide. Shake it off. Water off a duck's back. And so she's in grade 4, everything obviously resolved, they're young. And then recently she told me, oh yeah, I was telling my friend, so she's now in 2nd year university. And so it was about a year ago. And she says to me, oh, I was telling my friend to just be a duck. I mean, this was crazy to me, but the ripple effect. And she's like, yeah, these people were bothering her and she was really like having trouble with social media and whatnot. And I go, you know what, just be a duck. And I was it was amazing to me, the ripple effect of how she took something from then and has now passed it on. She goes, I actually use it a lot and it seems to really help my friend. And I think sometimes, we don't realize the little strategies that we give to our children and their friends, the ripple effect of it.
I love it. Wow. Great lesson. And she still carries it. I love it. We have come to that time where we actually are ending the show with a great conversation, everybody. What we love to do right now is give everybody 30 to 45 seconds. What can they expect when they come to your website, whatever link you shared with us? Anita, would you mind going first, 30, 45 seconds, and your website is going across the back.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So if you're in that entrepreneurial journey, but you've been an employee, that's what I do. I help you in that transition. So if you're straddling a full-time job and have a side hustle, or you're still fairly early, I call them the COVID entrepreneurs, people in the last sort of 5-7 years looking, but really working on that employee world, trying to be an entrepreneur, because that was my journey. And so what I do is I help coach you and train you. So when you come onto my website, you'll see that's my story, but I've put together 45 experts that come and help train in this community of ours. So you get coaching and accountability, but you get training on entrepreneurship that mirrors shares you why it's different than being an employee versus being an entrepreneur. So I'd love to chat with you. Please visit my website and book some time.
Love it. Love it. So Amy still loves the 15th day I gave to red carpet back. What does that mean?
That is a person who I worked with in the past who apparently is unhappy and wants to be publicly weird. You can't control how other people behave in the world or take responsibility for, we talked about being at cause, and, you have to be, the client has to be at cause for what they do as well. So much love to her. She's amazing. She overcame being run over by a bus and has done some amazing things, and she still dances. She was a dancer. So it's funny that we're talking about music today, because you mentioned, Anita, about the duck. And I was pulling up a song because I was in a musical called Honk, and the mother duck sings, "Hold your head up high, keep paddling." And it talks about how underneath it, like you keep your head up high and you remain positive, even though beneath the surface you may be struggling and having things move along. And, and sometimes that's how things have to be. We can love on people and do great things for them, and they can't always see it or feel it or appreciate it. And so in this case, I'm going to hold my head up high and
love
keep
it.
paddling and allow people, she can have a voice. So there you go.
Thank you, Dr. Andrea, and for being so
Yeah,
honest and forward with that.
sure.
That takes right there, everybody. What you just heard was from a great and incredible coach. We can't please everybody, but we do the work anyway. Mario, you're up, my friend. Go ahead.
Hi, just really quick. I will take for my few seconds and say something about Dr. Andrea. Your voice is incredible, and I am sure you have heard this before. Why aren't you on American Got Talent or something? Your voice is incredible. The vibration, your vocal cords, control. Wow. So thanks for sharing that with us. I mean
Thank
that
you.
from my heart.
Mm.
Now, really quick about what I'm doing. I have my hands in too many things. I'll admit it. But to keep it simple for the sake of this interaction, my awesome and simple, wonderful website, mariowissa.com, mariowissa.com. And there's actually quite a few things to do on my website. Mainly, I will point out one tab. The tab is Get Empowered. When you go onto that, you have the option to take a free online assessment, like 15 simple questions to kind of get an idea of your communication style and personality. And you get all the information. I do not get anything. That's only for you to do what you want to do. And maybe you can use this information and reach out to me. And the other option under Get Empowered is you can sign up and get free chapters for 3 of my books, not all the chapters, just sample from each book. All you have to do is just sign up. And that's all. Thank you for giving me that time.
Absolutely. Dr. Andrea, you're up.
Well, thank you. I'm Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller from Findlay, Ohio. And what I do is I help people be seen, heard, and understood and get in front of the right people at the right time. And that's so they can live their legacy now while they're alive instead of waiting to leave one so their family finds out who they are after they're dead. And we do that through publicity, marketing, business strategies, and through, neuroscience. So I love what I do, and I love people. And I'm so thankful that you are all here today.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. And I am Sifu Rafael. And it's easy to get in touch with me. It's Sifu Rafael, right? Or Sifu at speakingprowess.com. I believe that we all need to communicate. And it's my goal and my job to help you communicate at a much higher level. So connect with me, and it'll be a pleasure to get to know you. And it doesn't matter if you want to get a new job or you want to become the CEO of your life. Because the way we communicate, that's how we do it. Thank you, everybody. What an incredible show. Do me a favor, share this show with people who need to hear today's messages. Have a beautiful and exceptional rest of your day, everybody. Take care, and we will see you next Friday. Take care.